I'm a former 2 times British Thai boxing champion. We got a phone call and my dad was in a severe accident in Huddersfield where he was down like a manhole and he broke his back. So he's paralysed from my dad from my chest down. I was speaking to a counsellor at a time in my life where things weren't going very well. Between Thai boxing, boxing, and bare knuckle, I've trained 54 champions. No, but I don't drink and I was grieving. I did not have time to grieve. I had this feeling come over me and I can't breathe. What's this? I'm gonna die. It's happening to me. So I pulled over. Later finding out that's what anxiety is.
Welcome back to the YouTube channel, and today I've got somebody who I know personally, but I don't know too much about his life. I haven't been on holiday directly with him, but we've been in the same country.
Yeah.
So I'm going to welcome today is P from Golden Team.
Thank you very much for having us on, Carlos.
How are you, Val?
I'm good, mate. I'm very good.
We did have a good session in Germany, didn't we?
That was I think that were up there in the top 3 sessions of all sessions, Cal.
Well, just for the record, he made me travel. Yeah, just a bit of context. We went to go watch the Josh Warrington fight.
Yeah.
I think I was something like 2 miles away from the stadium.
Yeah.
You were like 30 miles away from the stadium.
Yeah, usual.
And he rang me up in the morning. I rang him up. I said, come on, we having a drink for the fight? He went, yeah, you come to me. So I had to drive 30 miles further away from the stadium. But good night, though.
It was worth it when you got there,
yeah,
Cal.
it was a good night. So, P, you understand what we're doing.
Yep.
It's not glamorization or anything like that. You know that I've got one question for you. Based on that question, we work it out.
Yeah.
And then obviously you'll get to ask me a question at the end.
Yeah, no problem.
So my first question to you, P, is who are you?
Well, for starters, a lot of people call me P. My real name's Porrick, which is Irish. So, I'm from an Irish family, an Irish background. I'm just not a young lad anymore, but I'm just a lad off an estate, Seacroft, which you know very well yourself, Carl. A young lad that had a dream, and at the moment, touch wood, he's 1% every day fulfilling that dream. I'm a former 2 times British Thai boxing champion, and now I've got a wonderful gym in Leeds and called the Golden Team, the mighty Golden Team, and training champions and bringing kids off at street and developing young lads who might have a bit of a chip on the shoulder off estates into a gentleman, and providing the skills that they need, not just in a boxing ring but in everyday life, touch wood.
Yeah, you're also a married man and a father as well, aren't you?
Yeah, a married man. I've got a stepdaughter. I got married in December. To be honest, Mia, she's a great lass. I love her a bit. And my stepdaughter Thea. We've got a little family unit now. I've always lived in Seacroft, and I'll be honest, I've always slagged Wakefield. Been a little bit blinded by, where we're from, Carl. Leeds,
yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I moved to Wakefield, and I absolutely love it.
I will say she must be something special.
Yeah, she's very special. Yeah. She's the girl that... She understands me as a person. As this podcast goes on, I'm going to, go into detail quite a few bits and bobs that's happened in my life if they come up. She's helped me out. She understands me as a person and what I'm about, and when I'm down, when I'm up, when to keep me levelled, when people are taking the piss but I'm not seeing it. Do you know what? I'm actually really glad you've asked that question, because I'll be honest, I've probably done about 15 podcasts over years, and that's the first time I've been asked that. So hats off to you, Cal. That's a cracking question.
Listen, honestly, what I don't want to do, I don't want to upset you, and obviously I don't want to ever bring up any traumas or anything that might be triggering for you, but obviously it's whether you're comfortable with it.
Oh.
So my first question then, P.
Yeah.
Well, you've given me a first question, but based on that, so talk to me, because obviously you've talked about Seacroft.
Yep.
So talk to me about family environment growing up. So mum, dad, brothers, sisters, what was that like?
So as a young lad, obviously, what people don't know is actually my granddad owned a bar in the hills, Delaney's. Yeah, you didn't know that, did you, Carl? That's my dad's dad. That's my granddad, Joe Delaney.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's something I don't really talk about a lot because growing up, going to school, everyone would go in, they'd get off the note, they'd be... It was an Irish bar. Yeah. So when I was that young, every time I went in, you know, I was surrounded by Irish men. There were a lot of Asian guys that went in there. Yeah. You know, it was just like quite a nice place to be. And then on a night, I know it turned into like Casa Locos, dancing about, probably getting off, you know, doing whatever. But, you know... So at that time, we didn't live too far from there, me, my dad and my mum, and we lived in Hare Hills for quite a while. And then at a young age, my mum and dad split up, and which is fine. It's what happens every day, everywhere. You know what I mean? That wasn't a big issue. I've got my little brother Michael, who's not so little.
He's a lump now.
He's a lump and he's a bit wild. But yeah, so, you know, believe it or not, I actually lived with my grandma. So my mum lived in Seacroft, and my grandma always lived 5 doors up, but I was always at my grandma's. Now in Ireland, they call you grandma Mamo. Okay. So it was like she kidnapped me. I was the eldest of the generation. She sort of kidnapped me, do you know what I mean? She had 5 kids herself, and I lived there. Loved my mum to bits. Best person in the world. But I was just there. I was just at my... You know, you got your grandma's, where you get fed. I was spoiled. Growing up, when I was fighting as well, I'd go in, my food would be there, everything would be done for me. I was spoilt, you know what I mean? And no, with my mum or my dad, nothing in it. It's just I liked being there. Yeah, I liked being there. And when I got to about 10, 11 years old, we got a phone call, and my dad was in a severe accident in Huddersfield where he was down like a manhole, and he broke his back. So he's paralysed from my dad from my chest down. Okay. So, you know, he's not ever been able to walk again. He can't really feel from his solar plexus down. So a lot of the time I was at my mum's and my mo's, and then we'd go visit my dad. My dad got somewhere for us that were a bungalow where we could go see him regular, you know, which were great. But both sides of my family, I was from a council estate, but I had a good upbringing. I had a lot of love.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't have much, but we had love.
So, are you era of primary, middle, high, or are you primary, high?
I just missed out. I'm 1989, so I'm 36 at the moment. So just primary and high.
Yeah. So what primary did you go to?
I went to Our Lady of Good Counsel in Seacroft.
You went Catholics?
Catholic
all the way?
Catholic,
Okay, so... Primary school fine, no issues there.
Primary school fine. Yeah, I was a good footballer when I was a young lad. I was played for like year 5. I played for year 6 team and stuff like that. A good set of lads, you know what I mean. I always had a good crack. Going into high school, same again, decent with football. Then
Where did you go? Secondary?
Corpus Christi.
I mean, a bit of a silly question, but I shouldn't even have asked that question.
I know.
You were either going there or you were going to go St Mary's.
Yeah, St Mary's were like Eastern Park.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
But being a Seacrofter.
Being a Seacrofter and being Catholic, you know, I went there. Obviously, you had Temple Moor, you had Copper. Where were it? Fucking hell, I can't remember the name of it. But you had loads. You had John Smeaton. You had all them schools. But yeah, going into high school, I weren't same, but I liked having crack. I liked having laughed. You know what I mean? What I was good at, I enjoyed. I started Thai boxing around 12. Then you see, I'd always done a bit of kickboxing.
What made you get into that? What made you get into the kickboxing side of it? You said you like football.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you go from football. I mean, all right, yeah, you like using your legs, so Thai boxing, kickboxing. But what makes you go there? What makes you take that route?
So, my family were always massively into boxing. I'd always watch the big fights with my dads. My uncles were quite renowned, and you know, liked to have a fight and stuff like that. And my granddad was a boxer. Joe sponsored boxers. My granddad. On this side, you know, he sponsored Derek Roach and stuff
I was
like
just going to say Derek Roach, he did sponsor Derek.
So I was always surrounded by the sport of boxing. I love the sport of boxing. Now, my dad went to school where, later down the years, actually ended up being my trainer. So Steve Adams, my trainer, was in school with my dad. They were friends at school.
Wow.
So I don't have a clue what Steve had been up to, but he had his bin liners out. He'd been kicked out. So my dad took him. Whatever he'd been up to,
Yeah.
he'd been booted out, basically, in a nutshell. That was Steve. So that's when I met him. I went round. I was doing a little bit of kickboxing at times. Started showing a bit of shadow boxing. Then one day, I went down, he took me down in car. I always remember his car because I had this clapped out Astra and seatbelt had always come off, and then music, he'd have to hold it in to play it right. Do you know what I mean?
They were the good old days though.
They were the good old days. So we'd have crack, and I remember the first time I walked through doors, about 11, 12, I started looking in, and you get that smell at gym and people skipping, and I could smell tile and music were on. It was just a little garage on Jack Lane in Hunslet. I sort of tripped over the step like a Doyle, and I thought, oh no, kids were laughing at me. So I went in change room, I got changed anyway, got myself together, started training, I loved it, I just loved it. And then he saw, because I was getting a lift with him, he said, oh, stay, I want you to do adults. And I'm not joking, I was knackered by the time, so I did it, and he goes, oh, just do a bit of sparring. I didn't know how to defend myself, I was doing everything wrong, putting my arms down to block kicks, which is not to do in Thai boxing, you're getting your arms broke. And just sort of like, I remember he was 6'6". He sort of had a move around me early smart. Tapped me on the head, top of head, I went through ropes, do you know what I mean? But like I was getting in with a couple of young ones and I rolled in my own, I was doing all right. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had a heart, you know what I mean? And I was game enough. So I got out of the ring, I was knackered. Felt sick, I thought I'm going to be sick here. Tapped me on the shoulder, he went, you're going to be a champion, you. And I just remember that from that day.
Wow.
Yeah, he did.
There's no bigger boost than that, is there, really?
Bigger boost. No bigger boost. And at the time, I thought, wow, and I just loved it. And then from there on, I'd sort of like, even if I want training, I was mesmerised by this person. I had to go.
So do you know, how old was you when your dad had the accident then?
I was probably about 10 years old.
So you're just leaving primary, then going to secondary?
Just off, maybe year 5, just off.
Okay.
Just off,
and then you start kickboxing in secondary?
Yeah.
Because I look at it then and I go,
sorry,
it's quite a connection, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because your dad and Steve, is it Steve?
Yeah, Steve, yeah.
So your dad and Steve go to school together?
Yeah.
Your dad takes Steve in?
Yeah.
Your dad has the accident?
Yeah.
So obviously the activity of your dad, because he's got to go to, and like you say, he's paralysed.
Yeah.
Then Steve comes into your life.
Yeah.
So do you think, you might know or you might not know, but do you think Steve might have took on that role or tried to?
Yeah, I think he did. I read something as I was getting older. I love my dad, he's the best person in the world. But as I was getting old, it's hard for my dad because he was in a wheelchair and he couldn't do a lot of things. I couldn't do a lot of things growing up with a father that he could give me, which is no fault of his own because he's given me everything in the world. But, I used to cross the ball and I'd practice my headers. I was good at my head, in football and stuff. And he'd do that and we'd have crack and he'd take me knocking ball about and stuff. And, as you're getting older, it's hard for my dad to go out to have a beer with you. He's getting carried upstairs, people knocking him out of his chair, shit like that. It's just hard for me. He's not keen on it and people tapping his bag. So, I remember my 18th, we went out, we all had a good drink and stuff like that and we were having crack. But I sort of like latched on to Steve because I was just mesmerised by him and how good he was at this sport and what he was doing. And even like music, he'd teach me about and the certain things he'd do. It's the
things that you can't learn in a classroom, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I like. You give me a book or you give me a piece of paper, I'm shell shocked. If I read a letter, fucking hell, I'll get a parking voucher, you get loads of them. What do I ring here? What do I do? You show me how to do something enough times, I'll do it. That.
I'm glad you said that then. So let's go back to school, because at 12 years old you start up the kickboxing, Thai boxing.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you're still doing that through school.
Yeah.
So how do you balance education? So what was it like in school? You said you like to have a crack.
Yeah.
So was you attending school regular?
I was attending school, but I wasn't there. I was attending classes because my mates were in it. I like to have crack.
So
I like to mess about.
What about GCSEs then?
I was shy. Mine spelt fudge. So I'll tell you what happened. I got a chance to fight for the British title at Leeds Town Hall, junior British title against Scott Quigg, who went on and won the world title, won world champions.
So Scott King was a
Scott Quigg
Thai boxer.
Scott Quigg had 84 fights. It was only my 5th fight when I fought him. I took the fight about 4.5 weeks' notice as well. I know Scott is a great
How old
lad.
are you now at that stage?
I am just touched 16, 15.
Okay.
15, year 10, year 11, doing my GCSEs. So I had a chance to fight for this fight. He'd been beating everybody. He'd only had one loss and he'd avenged it. Now, I'll show you that fight, Carl. There were 80% of people in there thought I'd won that fight. I'm not taking that away from Scott, but I knocked him down with a head kick, and it's meant to have a big rematch, and there were these forums and stuff, and they said it was fight at night and stuff like that. We got a lot of recognition for it. Scott's done amazing. He's probably a millionaire now. He's earning more dough than I've got.
He did well in boxing, didn't he?
I did great, and he was tough. I mean, that when I first got in ring, when I fought him, I've not really been asked about this, but when someone punches you, right, which you've had a lot of them over the years, haven't we, Carl?
Allegedly.
Yeah, apparently. Someone punches you, and do you remember when you used to knock the old TVs and they'd go...
Yeah.
When you were trying to get it...
So he shook you down to your toes, basically?
Yeah, so I'd see like fuzzy bits. I thought, wow, he could kick hard. But at that age and that, you've no fear. I just got involved, and he was kicking my leg, and I caught him with a head kick. He went down, and it was an absolute out-and-out war for two young lads like that. We just went at it for 5 rounds. It was brilliant. But yeah, I always remember the first couple of punches, I thought, wow, you go from teletext holidays to somewhere else, and it'd go, I think, whoa, and then boom, I'm back in room.
You won't remember these. A lot of people who watch this won't remember those days.
I was back in the room.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then, but I know I was hurting him, and we had a great fight. And I got a lot of respect off his team, the coming changing room after, because I remember I had an old school. Remember Lacoste tracksuits, proper Chava, and probably an Aqua scooter mat or something, or a Burberry hat. And I was fucking limping back in that venue, like, you bastard. Anyway, Steve tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, stop limping. Like that, trying to walk back to thinking, how am I meant to stop limping? My legs like that. He just bowled my leg off for 5 rounds.
So how did that, because obviously the question was GCSEs.
Yeah.
And then because I said, how did you balance it? Because obviously you fought for the title. So is that what kind of threw you off from...
So what I'm going back to is, I ended up getting suspended for school pretty much on purpose so I could train for that fight. Right.
Okay. And they were important years, your year 10 as well, because that's where you're doing your mocks.
Most important years. But it's not the best thing in the world. It's something you shouldn't do. I wish I'd have got more education. I'm more like, an everyday man. I can speak to people. I know what people are about. Streetwise, they call it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's me. I struggled to put pen to paper and understand what I was learning at that. I mean, I've got Thea, which is my stepdaughter. If I had my own boy, I'd make sure they'd do what they needed to do. I've learned by that, because I can't. Luckily enough, I had boxing and fighting, and I've gone on to educate myself at what I'm good at to have what I have today.
Yeah. So you've used what you've used what you're best at, and you've used that into business, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely.
So we leave school. So I'm guessing there was no college interest, no sixth form interest.
Yeah. So I started one day. So when I started working for Steve, I was helping him out on a night. So one day we was driving to Leeds Grammar School. We teach a class at Leeds Grammar School. So there's a gym on Jack Lane, but on a Monday we would travel to a place in Upton called Superflex. That was a Monday. So we'd have all our Thai pads in a karate belt. We'd put them in the back of the car, and we'd have a bag full of gloves. Just gloves, so we'd have our pads and our bags, and we'd just have each other. And I remember old, what taxi drivers used to take change in, like a little bag. They'd put the quids in and give you the change. I remember Steve had one of them. He'd take his money in that. There were no tiller out. So this was our week. Monday we'd go to Upton at Superflex. We'd teach there.
I absolutely hated Upton. Because mine's rugby.
Rugby at Upton,
Mate, oh God, I hated that. And you know what it was? I tell you why I hated it so much is, I got on with the lads, by the way, but when you drove in, you had to drive into it. So when you got to their ground, you only had one way in, and you were like enclosed in.
Yeah.
And you'd get there, and there'd be nobody there, and then all of a sudden you'd come out to start the game.
Yeah.
And the fucking estates would come out of nowhere, mate.
Yeah.
You couldn't move, and it would.
That were mad.
It's mad
because
over there, isn't it?
Them areas, you see, I've trained a lot.
Coal mining areas, aren't they? Predominantly.
And the rough kids who were, especially, I can't imagine what they were like with rugby. Were they good with rugby, Carl?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just like.
You were playing a game of rugby.
You
mate.
knew you were there.
When you went to Upton.
Yeah, because we've always had some good fighters that have come out of there. Believe it or not, we have. Yeah. So going back to that, Monday at Upton, Tuesday we'd have the gym, the little gym. Because there were another guy called Simon Crockford who's passed away as well now. God rest his soul, and a guy called Glenn Thompson. So Tuesday it would be ours at the gym. Wednesday then we'd go to Leeds Grammar School and we'd go to a link bank machine place where you had your own like little thing where you tap in, and for me at that age you're like, whoa, like something out of a film, you know what I mean? Yeah. X-Files or something. Thursday we're in Barrack in Helmet. So we'd teach up in Barrack in Helmet. We'd have just a little village hall there. Friday we'd have the gym through the day, and Saturday we'd be at the gym. So we were all over, and it were hard work, carting all stuff, doing your classes, driving home. We'd get home at 10 o'clock on a night, and then when we finally linked up and became partners and got the gym, it was just easier because we had all our own space, and stuff.
So has the gym always been in the same place once you got that gym?
No.
Okay.
We
was in just around Parkfield Street, facing where Northern Radiators were. We had a unit there.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, which is an MOT centre now, and then obviously I've got where I've got now. I've been there since 2013.
Okay, so leave school, you're trailing round.
Yep.
But you're still fighting.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk us through this journey. So you've left school, you're kiting about. Talk us through this era of where it's fighting.
Yeah. So I fought from the age of bloody hell 13 to 21 when he actually passed away. I won 2 British titles. I fought for my country twice in World Championships. I was lucky enough to fight Finland's ranked number 1 at 2 different weights. My last fight, I knocked out French champion. And I was, the Fleur Tyover, who was doing seminars over here. And I fought him at Oldham Tara Shaw Leisure Centre over in Oldham, top at Bill. I fought Pedro Menga, who was been in the UFC, who is unfortunately, I think he's locked up now. He's got quite a long time. Yeah, I think he got 20 years, something like that. I've seen in papers. Well, when you see stuff shared on Facebook, like, wow, I knew him. I've shared ring with him. But I had a great time fighting. I loved the victory of it. I always say, if I could put that feeling in a capsule, Carl, and sell it, I'd be a multi-millionaire, because that does highs, and you know what sort of highs I'm on about. But that is the highest of the highs, you know yourself.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I totally get it. But what I will say is, and again, coming from sport background like the rugby and the white collar, the laws are horrible.
Yeah.
The laws, because you never reach that.
Oh, listen.
You can never. It's like, not that I'm glorifying drugs.
Yeah.
But you can understand why people become addicts because of chasing that buzz.
Yeah.
And that's the same.
Yeah.
If you come from sport, like for yours, it's very similar because yours is full contact sport. What I played was a full contact sport as well, which are rare, aren't they?
Yeah.
If you look at them now,
mate,
they're
100%.
rare. But what people don't realise is the respect you get from opponents when it's full contact sport.
Yeah.
Is mind blowing.
It's like, look, you see that untattooed on my arm is Arturo Gatti versus Mickey Ward. It's probably the best trilogy in boxing history now. Yeah. It's funny you touch on that, Carl. That's weird because no one's ever touched on that about addiction. Because I was speaking to a counsellor at a time in my life where things weren't going very well. And she says the problem that I had at that time is due to me training and searching for this massive high. And this massive high was getting my hand raised in a boxing ring. Now, when I didn't have that high anymore, I was looking for this high that I was chasing at the time. And that's why I was chasing that high so much. Yeah. And that's the first time anybody else has ever touched on that, mate, to be honest.
You do, because people realise it's the endorphins, isn't you?
Yeah.
And it's the thing you've got with social media now, it's that 30 seconds. So 30 seconds, it has to grab you.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, so my argument now is, how are you teaching the kids in school when
Yeah.
they're so used to TikTok, where after 30 seconds, if the endorphins aren't being juiced, they're not interested, they're gone.
Yeah.
So how is a kid going to sit in class for 30
Yeah.
minutes, 45 minutes
It's
and
mad.
learn? It's mad.
It's mad.
Especially when these kids aren't old enough to even have social media.
No, they are.
But
It's sapping the brain.
yeah. So you quickly said something, and we kind of moved on. So you said after so you fought up until 21.
Yeah.
Until Steve passed.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing Steve passes, and obviously you can know you can't fight for nobody else.
It was too hard training fighters, running a business and trying to do everything. And for me to train for a fight with somebody that I didn't have trust in, somebody else, that I had a lot of loyalty to Steve, you know, and there isn't a lot of that anymore in boxing, you know what I mean? People move on, and people do need change in fighting sports. They do. I'm first to admit that as the career progresses, or they're not gelling with that man anymore, but there's certain times where you need to be loyal. You know, some of the best fighters in the world have stayed with the trainers all the way through. And they say in boxing, if you want loyalty, buy a dog, which is so true.
Funny enough, Roy Keane said it, didn't he?
Yeah.
He said it on the football. He said, "Oh,
yeah.
you want loyalty to a football team? Well, get yourself a dog."
Yeah, no, it's right.
And you know what it is? I get it. Like when I did the fight and I lost the fight,
Yeah,
I wanted to rematch it, obviously.
yeah,
But then I fell out with my trainer. We actually had a fallout.
Yeah.
But then the DJ that did my music, so I used to remix music, he passed away. So
mad.
every sign, and then I went to another club and I was like, "Look, will you train me for this fight?"
yeah,
It just, because of everything that was going on. And you know what people don't realise is when you have a trainer, especially how close you was with yours, and I had a trainer like that, it's not just the training though, it's the downtimes.
Yeah.
Because I would see my trainer twice a day.
yeah.
So I'd see him twice a day. But it's not actually the training part though.
No,
it's
no.
also the downtime where you just sat down and you're eating food together.
Yeah,
and you're having
yeah.
conversations.
Yeah.
And I talk about his career, his professional career.
Yeah.
So, and he'd tell me the stories. And although me and him were similar ages,
Yeah.
I was enthralled in this.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that, because I've trained lads since I was 15 years old. My first fighter realistically was a lad who I had who lives in Thailand now. He ended up being 4-0 with Thai. Between Thai boxing, you know, and bare knuckle, I've trained 54 champions. And one thing I noticed is what you've said there, Carl, is when I get to the venue, they're at peace. They're at peace because they're confined in you're confined in you being there, because they hang on to, if you've got a lad who really trusts and believes in you, they hang on to everything you say.
They're in a trance, aren't they?
Yeah.
As bad as it sounds, you're in a trance, and I know, but it's like when you go to different gyms, like we'd go on tour.
Yeah.
So you know yourself, you go on tour and you go to gyms, and the whole purpose, and people won't realise it. If you go to another gym, you know that gym is going to stick it all over
100%.
because you're not coming to our gym.
Yeah.
So we would go there, but we were a team where we never wore head guards.
Yeah.
So we
back in day,
didn't wear them like everybody else. They go, "You don't wear head guards." Like, no, if you're gonna, that's it. But then if people came to your gym, you got to remember we had like Andy as well.
Yeah.
So we had a good
Big
little
old lumps.
we had a good team. I think I was the smallest out of all of them.
Yeah.
So I get that. So when you're chasing them highs, there's also there's the personal bit in there as well, with the loyalty to the trainer, because it's more than just, and especially with yours, I'm guessing, he's more like a father figure as well.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question in the midst of all this.
Yeah.
So up until the age of 21, who was your hero?
At that time, it was Steve. It was Steve at that time. And going back to me feeling how I felt, you know, is because of this sport that I loved. I wanted I'd watched the videos, and I can't remember if YouTube were around then, but I'd do anything I could do. I remember it used to be on Eurosport, and I'd go in and I'd watch boxing, and at that time of my life it was him, because I held on to everything he'd say. Don't get me wrong, odd stuff that he told me, and we did that I shouldn't have fucking listened to. Do you know what I mean? And daft stuff. It was a flyer. It was just a flyer. Some of the stuff he did and some of the stuff.
But that's what makes him who he is.
People loved him. I mean, God bless his funeral when it was at a cathedral. you know, next to Light in town. The whole road was full.
Oh yeah, the one on the bottom.
Yeah, there's not many.
You had a good following though, didn't you? Well, you both had a good following. You had like Leeds United, service crew, stuff
all
like that.
Old service crew stuff.
I mean, we're not going to talk about service crew when we were in Germany. That was.
Oh no.
Well, yeah. But you know what I didn't know as well? Sorry to go off topic. I didn't know Josh Warrington got in trouble for that.
Really?
Yeah, because remember, we went to watch him fight, and if you remember, after he fought, he came up with us. Cause Paul Smith. Was he fighting Arthur Abraham?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, he did fight Arthur Abraham. Was that top at Bill?
Yeah, that was top at Bill. But
got a good memory for an old fight.
But Josh Warrington fought. So we went over to watch him. And if you remember, he came in the stand with us.
Yeah, he did.
He came in, and I remember it being in paper and they were taking photographs of him, talking about being in crowd,
But it's like Josh Warrington is a Ricky Yarney, they don't say him.
Yeah. But I remember...
Those lads off a state...
We're getting him to sing a song.
Yeah, even lads like Anthony Corolla, they're so thankful of these guys spending their hard-earned money to go over and support this person. Yeah. Obviously, we wanted to go and piss and get away from Mrs. Like, but...
Listen, what I will say is...
But we'll play on that one.
Yeah, but Germany, for me anyway, Berlin, where it's got to be the cleanest city I've ever been in my life.
I say that to everyone. It is honestly so clean, such a good place as well.
Yeah.
And beer were really clean as well.
Beer were brilliant. 2-3 o'clock in the morning, the little pickermen would be out collecting up stuff. In the 3 days I was there...
me and you singing and just getting in. Spinners chuddy up floor, can of beer in bush.
Oh wow, listen, what a night that was. So anyway, back on topic. So 21.
Yeah.
Steve passes.
Yep.
So then is that when you moved to where you are now, back at Beaverworks?
Yeah, that's when I moved there. Yeah, it was very hard for me going in and trying to do everything. And
I'm guessing 21 years old.
Yeah,
you've got all these members.
You've got
all these fighters.
Don't get me wrong. I had a lot of people who said that'd help me out and do things and bobs that they didn't. They didn't hold on to. People talk a lot of shit. Do you know what I mean? I've got a lot of good people over the years, but more people that have talked shit and moved on probably than that have done what they said they were going to do. Because, you know, life goes on and people have short memories and things get forgotten. So it was time for me to grab the bull by the horns at that time and do what I needed to do. And sometimes it was really hard. I was suffering, I was bad on drink and I was grieving. I did not have time to grieve. Yeah. Everyone around me, I was missing the gym. I wasn't going in. I was fucking things up because I was grieving. I'd never lost no one in my life. I didn't know what I was feeling, felt like. I was driving on Kirkstall Road one day. I didn't train for a year because I thought what I seen happen to him, have a heart attack, and seen him die on the doorstep of our gym that we had grown together, and maybe the first person in the hospital, see him pass away and be told at 2:02. I remember at the 20th of November 2010, I'd been in this room. That's the first time I'd ever felt out like that. And this one day, I had this feeling come over me and I can't breathe, what's this? I'm gonna die, it's happening to me. So I pulled over, later finding out that's what anxiety is.
Yeah.
That's the first time I had anxiety. I was happy-go-lucky, I didn't care about no, I would love it, I would make people laugh. That was me. You know what I mean?
And from the outside, nobody would know that.
No. And from that day on, I thought, whoa, days I couldn't get out of bed, days I felt dizzy. And I went to see counsellor and things got better, but over years things come back, or you know what I mean? Yeah. I still think about Steve, but I'm over that part. I can safely say.
Yeah. I know what you mean by it. You're not over the person, you're over the situation.
Yeah. It still comes to me in my dreams and stuff like that. But
I mean, do you know what it is? I think a lot of people don't tend to talk about the issues that they have, like the anxieties, the panic attacks, the mental health side of things.
Depression, you know.
Yeah. And do you know what it is? And I think a lot of people don't. I mean, I've said it myself. I went through depression. I went through it for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Nobody would have known. I went through it about 2 years, but again, you're saying with your training, mine was being on a sofa, laid on a sofa for 2 years.
Yeah, it's awful.
Did the things I meant to do.
Yeah.
But that were it. Other than that, my life was a sofa for two solid years.
That's where you were at peace, but you could sort of be on your own.
Yeah, you can hide.
Yeah.
You're safe there, aren't you?
Yeah, you're safe.
Yeah.
You're safe in. Were you safe in it?
Yeah. So you go seek counselling. Is that where you
Yep.
you go seek counselling straight
I
away?
went to see a no, not straight away. I was masking it by drinking and partying and going out and doing everything I could, and that were not leaving my gym in the place it should be, and relying on other people and stuff. And then I just went to see counselling and stuff like that.
Did you speak to anybody prior to going to counselling? Did somebody say, oh, you need to go see a counsellor? Was it somebody that you trusted, or was it just where you go, listen, I need to do something about this?
No, I'll tell you what happened was, people just thought I could get on with it, you know what I mean? And what I realised is I was 21, I didn't know what this feeling was. I was sticked in, man. I just didn't have a clue. There was a guy called Gazfish at the time, who was one of Steve's friends that helped me out a lot in the gym. He did a lot for me, and there were people that did help, or was there, or tried to give me information that they thought was good. And then later on down the years of the line, when they've lost someone, they've come to me, and they've actually known how I felt at that time. Not that they've remembered that time, but I see them going through what I went through then, and I'm thinking, you didn't really give me the right information there. Do you know what I mean? You thought you knew better, and that sounds harsh from me, but they did.
Yeah.
They did. They thought they knew better.
Well, do you know what it is? It's that added thing in it. It's like giving advice. The advice that you would give is not always the advice you would receive. Is it?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And I'm a realist. Like, when people are saying certain things and stuff like that, I think, put yourself in that. Let's break this down. Let me have a look. Would you really do that in that situation? Would you do that? You've got to be realistic, haven't you? You really have got to be realistic.
Because the world is like that.
Yeah.
In the real world, people will pass you by every single day and not give you a minute because they're busy doing what they're doing.
Yeah,
because they know what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
So you're either on board with it,
Yeah.
or you're running alongside them, or you're not. But a lot of people believe that everybody should do these things for you, like you're entitled.
Yeah.
And we have no entitlement. The only entitlement we have is probably to pay homage to your mother and father for giving birth to you.
Yeah. There you go.
In reality.
There you go.
And then obviously you've got your own children.
Yeah,
and, you know.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of years where you're partying.
Yeah.
But then you go see a counsellor.
Yeah.
So once you have a true reflection of yourself, how are you then?
Yeah.
It's having an understanding, isn't it? Yeah.
Better. I was better. And a lot of things happened over the years. We moved gyms. That was a new start for me. Started understanding why I felt like I felt. And then things got better, and I was training a lot of fighters, putting a lot of shows on. My name was getting out there in boxing, and I transitioned from Thai boxing to training professional fighters. I took a guy for a Commonwealth title to Australia, been to Burma where we've beat main event a girl thought left way, which is basically Thai boxing, bare knuckle, but you can headbutt. And this is a girl. This is a female called Nicole Bark, who is actually from Luton, moved up to train with me for that fight. And she's just very educated, well-spoken lady. And I'm thinking, she'd get in the ring, knock fuck out of all the lads, jump out the ring and, oh, hello there, does anybody want a cup of tea? So it just shows.
Yeah, but to be fair though, Pete, majority of fighters are very humble outside the ring.
Very humble.
Especially those that get right to the top.
Oh,
But at the beginning, some have that little attitude because you need to have that attitude to get up
there. That's why it's such a great spot for two people to go in there, not pulling out of each other, and then cuddle, shake hands. I mean, if anybody's seen Gatti versus Ward, there's a thing on YouTube called The Tale of the Legendary Nights, and it's about the life. And what's happened is they've had 3 fights, and there's a part in it where they're both in hospital, absolutely cabbaged, and they pull curtains back, and they just shake hands like that. And for me, as a boxing trainer, that's the moment where I just get goosebumps.
Well, it shows you anyway, doesn't it? Because at the end of a fight, fighters hug.
Yeah, they do.
First thing they do. I mean, there's rare occasions that some fighters don't, but that's a built-in hatred, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But majority, 9 out of 10 of them will hug
Oh,
and shake
100%.
and then you'll go to the opposite corner, respect the trainers.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the sport.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's the beauty of the sport, is because he who dares, you know, it's people getting in there just to get in there. I see it. I train these white collar guys who do it for charity, who the son might have had cancer. They dedicate their lives for 8 weeks to come in. They are shitting themselves. And it's for them to walk out, step through them ropes. Football, there's 10 other men as you.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, boxing, it's one-on-one.
Yeah.
Thai boxing,
And that's why
one-on-one.
anybody,
MMA, one-on-one.
anybody,
Combat sport.
yeah, anybody that does combat sport, I don't care how shit he is. I don't care.
Yeah.
For you to actually get and cross over, take them steps and cross over, or duck under that ring rope and get in, mate, you'll always have my
Yeah,
respect.
100%.
Always.
Yeah, definitely.
So, P,
Yeah.
we've got to get onto a little bit of an upslide now.
Yeah.
Because what I am going to say is you change the gym.
Yeah.
And then obviously you do a crossover. So there's a bit of a crossover where I do see you going into boxing, but then I've actually seen you come back.
Yeah.
You've actually come back. So because you've said little bits, there's little snippets. So obviously, while you're talking, I'm listening to you, but I'm reading between lines because I'm guessing with the boxing thing, I'm saying, is the people that have come into your life where it's like, listen, you want to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then do you go, but hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Would Steve
Yeah.
be happy with me doing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is what
I fell out a little bit of Thai boxing because I thought there was a lot of politics in it at the time.
What, and you didn't think so? There were politics in
I
boxing?
didn't realise how big it
I was
was.
going to say.
Yeah. And I was trying something new. I needed something new. And I went over, started, you know, working with Jack Bates and Tyrone Nurse. I had Mick Learmonth, you know. Now, you know, Kobe McNamara, I've been involved with some great lads. And, I was just enjoying it. And I was thinking, wow, bright lights, this and that. There's loads of dough in it, you know. Unless you've got a superstar, there's no money in it. Your money's in training people and enjoying it and meeting people and people who actually walk through your doors. And then what happened was Steve's son works for me now, Luke, and he runs the Thai boxing side of stuff.
Okay.
And I was seeing, I've not said this to him, and I hope he watches this, which he usually does. I was seeing the work he was putting into these guys. And what he was, I can't take no benefit from the Thai boxing side at the moment because he works his arse off day in, day out. Probably because he wants to do his father proud. You know, he was only about 9 at the time, Luke. Because I remember him getting up in church and doing a speech, and I crumbled me on the speech. He blitzed it out. He's just a good lad. And sometimes I'll just stare at him because he's got the same feature. Whoa, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I beat Calvin the way he drives exactly the same. I'm thinking,
Yeah, the seatbelt's not popping off no more.
no, not more. Yeah, no, his car's a little bit better than that shitty banging here. But yeah, he's took over the Thai boxing side, but he's given me a little bit of lease of life, and I've actually started getting more people doing Thai. I mean, I enjoy watching it again, and I'll watch one championship. So I'll be honest with you, I think it's Luke that's giving the lease of life, really. I think it is. I think it's
He's
him.
given you a new lease.
Yeah. Yeah, because his classes are busy and he's took a grip of it. And when I could not be, I'd done it for years, taking these classes and people telling me what I should do. He's just done it himself.
Do you think it's funny how the universe works?
Oh, it's mad.
You've got the full circle, haven't you? So
Yeah,
you go,
it's mad.
Steve trains you,
Yeah,
you take over, Steve passes away,
yeah.
then his son comes in,
yeah,
and now his son's doing it.
yeah.
And then it's...
And he's a phenomenal trainer.
And you know what? What I will say as well, Pete, and a lot of people won't know this, but there's been a few times, I know there's a few occasions, obviously I work with young kids getting in trouble or trying to get them out of trouble or trying to work with them before they start getting in trouble. And you actually train a lot of them.
Yeah, it's mad.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we've sent kids to you, and we met up the other week, couple of weeks, where there's another place that I'm working at, and I came over with them, and you're training them as well.
Yeah.
And again, because I think, like you said, and you said at the beginning, it's where you're giving kids that option where you're going, listen, stay off the street, look, come and, because if they get a love for it,
cool.
it's addictive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And do you know, like these, when we do teach these guys that you guys bring over to us, or lads, guys we've had before, and I noticed you were exactly the same with them, Carl, is I don't teach them. I don't be that person when they're walking. Right, okay, this is military. Because I've been to loads of gyms and it's military. 5 pesos. First of all, you know, I'll get to know his name. I'll get to know something about him. I'll have crack. Oh, they're nice trainers. You know, I knew where Max. Blah blah. I'm relating with him.
Yeah.
I've not learnt this off nobody. This is just who I am because I know I'm relating with him. And then once I get to know him, I'll have crack, you know, I might call, oh, you know, he's ugly, you know what I mean? Start getting a bit of a chuckle out of him. Then I'll have crack bringing it in. I bet he can't get a bird, can he? You know what I mean? And then I'm building a bit of lingo. And then one day he'll come in and say, listen, I'll let you put tunes on. What tunes are you having? Bit of Tina Turner. Not knowing who Tina Turner is, I'll educate him on Tina Turner. Elvis, someone like that. And then, you know, he'll have crack, this is proper music. Then I'm having a bit of banter saying, no, hang on a minute here. What, you like all this crime? It's shite. Can you remember Castle Locals? Do you know what I mean? And you're building a rapport with a kid.
But that's when it takes you back to your trainer. Yeah. Because your trainer's not just about what you do in the gym.
And that's why I gelled with him so well.
Yeah. And that's what it is, isn't it?
With the outside the gym, they're having a crack, they're taking piss, you know what I mean?
So, I'm going to ask you, it's a double question.
Yeah.
So, if you could go back in time.
Yeah.
And you could change anything. A, what would it be? And B, why?
If I could change anything.
Yeah, what would it be and why?
Wow, that's a really good question.
Wait till you hear the next one.
That is a really, really good question. If I could change anything.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked that question is because I've been asked, and I ask everybody the same question, because it's all about paths. And my path will always lead me to my children, regardless of anything, because I've been open and honest on there. So they'll always lead me to my children. So certain paths I cannot change. So there's things in my life where you go, I wish I could change that. However, that led me here, which then leads me to here and leads me and you to be in Germany at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I would probably, without mentioning names, I would probably not have met certain individuals and took on that advice and been in certain individuals' company due to them leading me to places that I shouldn't have ever gone in my life.
Okay. Right, so the next one is so that's your what and why.
Yeah.
So the next one is if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self? Not that I'm saying you're old, P, because you're only 38, 39.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're old.
Yeah.
But if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself?
I would probably give myself advice on education, really. About being educated in certain parts and stuff that I mess up on now that
you're having to learn now.
I'm having to learn now, like things that have probably knocked me back from getting a mortgage and things like that. But at the time I'm thinking, wow, I need all this and all this to get this. I'd have educated myself. My dad used to, but I didn't take the advice off it. I'd have educated myself more on that side of stuff, which has left me behind in life, owning certain things that I should own. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So what about this one? What advice would you give the generation now? Because obviously you know what's going on in the world and in the areas, and whether it be a postcode war, whether it be knife crime, gun crime, whatever it might be. What advice would you give the younger generation?
To see the best in people. I'd give the younger generation to see the best in people and not... A lot of the younger generation are walking around like everything's so hard.
They're entitled.
Everything's so hard, everything. Our era, you'd leave school, you'd go out on your bike, you'd make a den, you'd go to boxing, you'd go to football, you'd walk through the door, your mum would give you a clip up back at Lughall.
Allegedly.
But you were allowed to do that then. You'd get back up, you'd do it next day. Not take life too seriously, enjoy every day, and just see the best in people. If somebody's walking down the street, okay, and they've got their hair dyed green and it's a mohawk, right, you know, and they might have, the teeth might not be in the best shape, or they might have big ears, or they might have some sort of thing like that. think, oh, he's got a nice pair of trainers on. Do you know what I mean? Look at the positive in everyone rather than the negatives that they think.
I like that, Vic.
Yeah.
I really do like that.
Yeah.
And again, taking you back to childhood, as you'll remember, you would walk about 3-4 miles just to go and knock on your pal's door for him not to be in.
Yeah.
And you've got to walk back. You used to retrace your steps.
Yeah.
Well, there's this park, there's this area. We'll knock about.
Yeah.
And you'd walk, and it'd be in rain.
Yeah, no.
Whereas now, kids just stay on PlayStation, so I can talk to them through that.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if no one answered the door, you get an half Charlie, half that slow and throw it against window.
Yeah. There was even a way of how you knocked on someone's door. Like, you used to knock on the door and you'd walk back to the gate. Do you remember?
I tell you, I'll do an impression, and you'd always go, and
then you'd walk away. You'd walk as far away just in case.
Fuck, his mum's coming.
Yeah.
His mum's coming.
So what I will say now, because obviously recently going to the gym, I've seen you gym in different times.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to say now is the gym looks unbelievable now.
I'm glad you've gone on to this.
The gym, not that it looked. I mean, I like the old school gyms.
Yeah.
I like the ones where it fucking stinks.
Yeah.
It does, and I don't mean urine. I mean, it's just, I can't explain the smell of a gym, but it's got that sweat. It's got that sweat smell, and like there's metal things around where you can see a little bit of rust on it. The bags have got tape round them on different size, and it's been split. And there's
that's it. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not saying your gym's not like that.
Yeah.
But your gym. For last time I come into like the recent when I went in, like, wow.
Yeah.
What has happened? What's happened?
So I'm so glad you've asked me this.
Because I was thinking, has he had a championship fighter that's ended up paying him a good purse or something?
So I've known a guy for 20 years called Stuart Littlewood, and he only used to be a doorman, and he's opened numerous businesses. He started a business and it just excelled in recruitment. And Aim to Learn, it's called actually. It's he works with the young people, getting them jobs and stuff like that. Government granted, and he gets jobs. And he's actually now in prisons, and he's an amazing bloke. And just turned businessman, like very hard worker. He's the hardest working man I know. And he's mentored me, and he put the money into the gym to do it up, to make it look like it's one of the nicest gyms in Leeds, really prestigious place. And not only that, he mentors me, a couple of times a month on business. I'm good at doing what I'm doing.
Your hands on.
Boxing, yeah. Right, I'm not the best at business and doing things on time and stuff like that. But he mentors me with stuff like that, and he educates me. So
that's good.
I owe it all to Stuart Littlewood, this part of my life. He's really helped me out. I train his kids. We've got a really good bond. And they say there's no friends in business, but I've known him a long time. And he's my business partner, but he's his mentor as well. Do you know what I mean? He's so successful, it's unbelievable. I know a lot of stuff he does is just to help me. And it takes the measuring of a man, that really. And I'm very grateful for what he's done for me.
Again, and I switch into I think your life has always been full of mentors, hasn't it?
Yeah.
When you look at it, when you look at that,
Yeah.
I think there's a gap in between.
There's a gap where I didn't
21
have
to 30 odd, where
and
you go.
That's where,
you've got. I didn't meet people that I should have met, so they were negative mentors.
I'm still learning, Carl. I'm still doing a lot of stuff wrong. I'm still doing a lot of stuff wrong.
It's as long as you don't keep doing the same thing wrong.
I mess up a lot. I do stuff wrong, and my mind's always all over the place, and stuff like that. And I've not been diagnosed for it yet, but I'm being to doctors maybe about having ADHD. I don't know yet, but there's a lot of signs and factors there.
I know I've not been diagnosed with it, but I know factually.
I'm like, wow, that is me. Alaska's, that is me.
So
goes, slow down a minute. Your ADHD is kicking in.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know what? Sometimes you can use it to your own. You can use it to your own advantage because it helps you get through life. It's manageable. So I'm gonna cover one last thing, and then obviously you get your question.
Yeah.
How did you meet your good lady? Because P, I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you now. I never saw this coming.
Yeah.
I never thought that you, not from the P I know anyway. Never, not in a million years.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. And again, I like I tell people, I don't research people, I don't look into things because I think it brings authenticity.
Yeah.
But I did see marriage, and I was like,
mad, innit?
Like, so talk to me about that one.
Yeah. So
We'll finish on a positive.
it was
Because
actually
your lass will kill you for it.
oh, 100%. It was actually through a friend of a friend. Actually, something had gone on with one of my friends, and she'd helped this guy out get back what he needed through a little bit of a mental time, really. And I was single at the time, and he showed me she was single at the time, because he had to go around to a house to sort out what were going on. She went, oh, he's all right, you know what I mean? So he stuck it on my head, like, oh, yeah. So I got number, started messaging, just out of blue. I remember being sat home and I thought, I actually had a look on her Facebook, and I thought, because she went to, I think it was Prince Henry's grammar school. I thought, oh, fucking hell, this is going to be hard work, this, do you know what I mean?
Posh bird.
Jesus, I'm not, so I was right, good and prim and proper at messages, do you know? I thought, oh, well. And then 4 messages in, I'm talking about all sorts, fucking this and that.
ADHD kicked in.
yeah, kicked in. And then I'm having a laugh, and it's just going back and forth. And then we actually had a couple of dates, and I thought, wow, it was just like the female version of me. And I was like, fuck everything, I was pissing herself. And she were making me hysterically laugh. Well, I've not had that before.
Whereas you usually were the joker of the pack, weren't you?
And I'm fucking pissing myself laughing here and having a crack. And then we went to Amsterdam and things escalated, and she invited me. I went round to hers, and after the first night, they used to call me bin liner P, because I was always getting kicked out of my bin liners, and that was it, you know what I mean? I was always back at my old days. And it is, I went round one night, and I've never gone home since.
Wow.
I never went home. I remember being at gym. She goes, oh, you coming back round tonight, blah, blah. And I just sort of like, thought, wow. And then a month later, I went, do I live here now? Do you know what I mean? And then about 10 months down the line, Carl, 10 months down the line, we're having a crack and all that. And I says, well, you'll never marry me. She went, yeah, I will. Next minute, she had laptop out. I thought, like that. So we booked it all online. Just did it all in, got all his details. Did it at registry office, me and her, a couple of family members, boom, have a massive party at Faversham. Just did it like that. Faversham, you know, all his family and friends. And
just for the record, didn't get invited. But
yeah, no. I wasn't in touch with you then, Cal. I didn't know where you were knocking about, sorry about that. And yeah, just did it. And too many people are like, oh, if you're going to do something, do it. Do it. And we just did it from there, mate. And
well,
yeah,
congratulations. Mate.
Thank you very much. She's a good lass. We have a good laugh. Don't get me wrong. I'm shit scared of her. You know, she likes to. We do have the odd carry on, but any couple has a carry on. Within 8 seconds, we're laughing and joking, and she calls me a rat. She calls me Rat Boy. That's my nickname. So we have a good crack. No, but I love it a bit. I love it a bit, and you know, I'm looking forward to spending the rest of my life with her.
Oh, that's good. And do you know what it is? And knowing you, I'm actually glad that you're actually in a happy place now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I am.
100%.
So, P.
Yeah.
The time has come, my friend.
Yep.
It's your turn.
Right, Cal. You know what, mate? I'll be honest. I've not sat down and spoke to you like this since we got absolutely pissed out of our heads over in Berlin. So it's not even harsh out like that. You intrigue me as a person. So if you could sit in a room like this with anybody, dead or alive, as a celebrity, okay, and have an hour with.
Does it have to be a celebrity?
No, it can be anybody. A celebrity, I know mine is somebody that intrigues you. It might be an old school boxer, it might be a superstar, it might be football, it might be family. I don't know. Who you could sit with and have an hour with, have a beer and sit down and have 1 hour with and ask them these sort of questions, what you wonder about, what you think about, who would it be?
Do you know, most people's brains racks, but the biggest influencer in my life, and no one's ever come close to him, was my granddad.
Yeah.
And he died when I was really young. And I know my path would have changed significantly. I know it would have been. Me and you would have never met.
Yeah.
The path that he had me on, I know it. So, yeah, it would be him. It would be my granddad. I'd have 5 minutes with him. Just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like he was the things he taught me in life, I still carry through now. And that was only until I was like 7, 8. So, but them things have stayed with, like, he said to me, don't ever gamble.
Yeah.
I don't gamble.
Yeah.
He said, don't ever walk into a room where you can't join in a conversation.
Yeah.
So you have to be constantly learning.
Yeah.
And it was never quit unless your heart stops beating.
Yeah. 100%.
And them three things have stayed with me my whole
That's
life.
amazing. That's amazing. Oh, nice one,
They
Carl.
stayed with me my whole life. So even if I could have 5 minutes with him, like, I didn't grow up with my dad. He was my dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've never met no one like it. And you know what? To my detriment, it probably went against me, that.
Yeah.
Because I never found anybody. You know, like you were lucky.
Yeah.
You had your dad, then you had Steve,
Yeah.
you've got this mentor.
Yeah.
Whereas that never happened, because I'm the oldest in my family.
Yeah.
Even with my stepbrothers and my other brothers. So I never had somebody I could go to.
Yeah, definitely.
So just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
5.
Brilliant.
Just give me 5 minutes with
That's
him.
perfect.
Well, Pete, listen, I want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been brilliant.
been
And listen,
fantastic.
I wish
I've really enjoyed
you
it.
every success that you have. And I know you've got a few fighters who are some of the kids that I've worked with, or I know the parents. So I'm hoping they'll go on to do good things.
Let's hope so. The world's their oyster at that age. They just need, managing right.
I can't think of a better mentor than you myself, personally.
Thank you very
much. So, Pete,
Carl.
honestly, thank you.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers, pal.
I really enjoyed that. Cheers, Cal.